peace for me is something where, in spite of all that is happening around, am I feeling centered? Am I engaged with whatever is happening around? I have to engage, but still, am I detached emotionally within? I focused on how do I resolve this rather than why it happened. People get into why this happened to me and why me. So that takes them away from the center, that takes them away from the peace. But then, if one remembers that this is my home, this is where I need to return to, then you can switch to resolving the scenario by being in the present moment. If I'm too externally oriented, then my self love and my self esteem becomes a function of if others respect me, others love. And I keep seeking that by trading off my peace. But if my source of love for myself, is emanating from within, then I am not emotionally too much dependent on others. I'm not saying that we don't need anyone else's love, we all need, but then I'm not empty within. It is around that our upbringing, our education system, our social system, we will never talk about that. We say, I love you. We don't say that I love myself. That was never taught. That to me is a bigger cause of many problems and challenges that we see around us.
I believe inner calm is the seed and peaceful relationships are the flower. When we cultivate stillness within ourselves, it naturally flows into our interactions, shaping the way we relate, listen, and connect with others. Today, we explore how to build relationships with peace, even amid complexity, differences, or tension.
Yes, relationships, whether at work, at home, or in our communities, can easily become battlegrounds when fear, ego, or misunderstandings take the lead. But what if we could navigate them with calm, presence, and understanding, turning every interaction into an opportunity for connection? In today's episode of The Human Weave, Faces of Peace, we explore nurturing peace in our relationships. How can we be calm within ourselves while navigating the complexities of our relationships in all the systems we are part of? To take us deeper, we are joined by Ujjaval Buch, a global executive leadership coach and a coach educator with over 12 years of experience. He's the founder director of United Minds and serves as a board member at Coacharya.
Ujjwal believes that inner mastery is far more within reach than most of us realize. For him, the pathway to professional mastery is rooted in cultivating inner mastery and a deeper understanding of the systems we belong to. I can vouch for the fact that he is truly a human being who has mastered and is yet continuously practicing, aligning to his most authentic self. His experience spans coaching senior leaders, teams, and organizational systems, as well as unique contexts such as leadership transitions in family owned enterprises, grassroots socio-economic initiatives, and social systems change. A warm welcome to the Human Weave, Ujjwal. It's our privilege and honor to have this opportunity to engage in what promises to be a truly insightful conversation.
Thank you, Roshni. Thank you, Yashaswini. And hello, everyone who are watching this, listening to this. It's truly a pleasure to be a part of this conversation today. And thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Ujjwal, we often talk about peace as a concept, but today we want to hear first what it feels like for you right now. What comes to mind when you're thinking of peace?
So, peace for me, Roshni, is something where, in spite of all that is happening around, am I feeling centered? Am I engaged with whatever is happening around? I have to engage, but still, am I detached emotionally within? It's easier said than done, but purely a trainable thing. So, peace for me would be, I would quote Dr. Michael Singer, who talks about stabilizing in the seat of self. So, am I stable within? Am I centered within? I am moving, but one part of me is like a traffic island, all traffic around, but that point of stillness is accessible to me.
That's such a powerful way to start a podcast, especially because then you're very clear with the answers that you have. Is that how you're feeling right now? Centered and having access to that place?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. In a relationship, how does one recognize when a relationship is truly in peace?
So, when I say relationships, say for example, let us take two or three samples. So, first of all, in family relationships, say between husband and wife. So, how do I know that there is peace? It is straight away connected to how I feel within. If I'm not too constrained, if I'm not too stretched or stressed, and more importantly, do I have sufficient psychological safety to be able to express what I'm going through? And I can give feedback and also hear feedback. To me, that is probably an enabler of peace. Second is very important relationship like husband and wife is parents and children. So between them also, if they can have a healthy disagreement, but at the same time, they continue to love each other, I think love is one of the most important ingredients of peace. So that is there. And in an employer employee relationships, when my relationship with work is only related to one message that is coming from the bank that my salary is credited, is that the only relationship that I have? Or I feel that my work is drawing some meaning for me and I feel like contributing. And my colleagues, my seniors, and overall my work culture is supporting me in achieving that objective, then there is likelihood of peace. But it looks like a utopian concept at the moment, especially in workplaces, because what I see around is exactly the opposite of what we are discussing. But I'm hopeful that somewhere it is possible if everybody is fed up equally of what's going on around them, then change begins. Because as Dalai Lama says, that sometimes we may go away from peace, but we have no choice but to return to peace. And to return to peace, which means we started with peace. So we go around and come back to peace, and that pathway is from inner centeredness that we earlier talked about.
Makes it so uh, I'm looking for a better word than powerful, actually. Something that is always existing, right? When you say we are returning to it, and yet, like you said, there is a lack of it around us. But you also mentioned the importance of having that practice within yourself, being able to center yourself in the first place. We'd love to hear a story where peace showed up for you, maybe unexpectedly, in a coaching relationship or in an organization that you're working with. And it reminded you of its power in human connections.
I think that's a great question, Roshni. Maybe I can cite a real life example which just happened to me 2 days back. Okay, I was traveling in a cab and the car was just 1 week old, which means brand new car. We were on an expressway driving 100 kilometers an hour, and suddenly the right front tire got burst at that speed. Okay, and before we knew, we were in the middle lane, so car drifted on the right side and it hit with the divider. Of course, before that, the driver had already gained the control, applied brake and everything, but we were just short of getting turtle. And if we would have been in the right lane, first lane, it's difficult to imagine whether I would have been with you guys today. But that was the case. Right? Now, That situation emotionally knocked me off for a moment. Yeah, because it was a sudden shock. Oh my God, what happened? And immediately, my stabilizing in the seat of self that happened, that emotional pendulum went, the shock, and also trauma. And the heavy car, we cannot shift it on the left side. So, which means on that overtaking lane itself, the driver had to work on changing the wheel, changing the tire. And what I was doing, it was the time of night. So, I was using both of our mobile torchlight to guide the other vehicles. So immediately I focused on how do I resolve this rather than why it happened. So we call it why how balance. So sometimes when situations like this happens, okay, even in a workplace, a collision of different kinds, right? Then people get into why this happened to me and why me. So that takes them away from the center, that takes them away from the peace. But then, if one remembers that this is my home, this is where I need to return to, then you can switch to resolving the scenario by being in the present moment. Because I think anything related to peace or centeredness has a deep connection, whether I am in the present moment or I am either in the past and thinking about, oh, this happened to me 15 years ago as well. And that was a 10 months bedridden period. I underwent 4 surgeries. If I recall that trauma, then I'm not in the present. Or I say that, oh my God, now we are on the highway. Now, even after tire was installed, car was not able to move because there was a damage to the wheel assembly. So we had to call a towing vehicle and everything. So all of that, if I start thinking about the future, it will cause anxiety. So basically, between regret or anxiety of the future, we keep swinging. But if I remember that, okay, what is it that this moment needs from me? Do I have to be anxious or do I have to recall my past trauma? Or no, I just need to do whatever is needed. This is the need of the moment from me. And then we could handle the situation. So I'm not saying that I have done something really great, but all I'm trying to say that I'm speaking from the experiential reality that it is purely a trainable thing.
Thank you for sharing such a traumatic experience, but even to show that even in such an extreme situation, that this kind of accessibility to your center is possible, and that is very important to share, I believe.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. The whole point is around that what stayed with me is that you should know that the home is here. We reside in our minds of the future or ideas of the past, but we forget that there is a space which is present moment, and that is where I live. Rest, I'm only existing in my thought processes.
How did your centeredness help the driver here? Because I'm sure it must have been quite traumatic for him to being in his position, right? How did that centeredness influence him?
Yeah, of course. He was first. He applied his mind and then brake, so that we at that speed we are not drifted and straight away hitting the. We hit that, but not very badly, so that the car topples. So he applied his presence of mind for sure, but then he was slightly perplexed as to what happened and just a week old car. Yeah, so at that time your tonality, your you need to assure him. I said, don't worry, we are in overtaking lane, we cannot take the car on the left side, extreme left side. So I'm managing the traffic so that nobody should come and hit us. If you need any help from me in changing the tire, etc., let me know. But primarily I think I need to take care of you and the car, so that because at that speed, just imagine we were at 100 kilometers an hour, other heavy vehicles are also at the same speed, and in the night it is difficult to actually imagine whether you have a moving object in front of you or you have a standstill object. So he felt assured. And I believe I just contributed a little, but his own presence of mind and his skill to work on changing the tire, etc., it helped.
I like how you said it's a trainable aspect rather than looking at the past with regret or with anxiety in the future. It is more of awareness and acceptance of the present moment on how you can move
Yes.
forward.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, Yashaswini. I can perhaps at this juncture present four words which are like guiding words for me, and whosoever I work with, I kind of try and share with them also. So the four words, okay. But especially when we are not in peace, what comes to our mind is four-letter words. But this is about four words we are talking about, and these words are: one is awareness that you just mentioned. Second is acceptance. Third is forgiveness. And fourth is self love. And just expanding on that a little bit, if I accept, half battle is won. But sometimes acceptance also can be forceful acceptance because I have no choice, I'm accepting. Forgiveness is actually a great healer. And rather than helping anyone else with forgiveness, I'm only helping myself. And that unlocks self love. Because most of the situations that disturbs peace is through, I keep on checking. There is one radar within all of us. It keeps checking. For example, people in the closest relationships, say somebody is scolding. So they scold me, okay, but do they love me or not? We keep checking. And then sometimes if I'm too externally oriented, then my self-love and my self-esteem becomes a function of if others respect me, others love. And I keep seeking that by trading off my peace. But if my source of love, myself, love for myself, is emanating from within, then I am not emotionally too much dependent on others. I'm not saying that we don't need anyone else's love, we all need, but then I'm not empty within.
Yeah, more like validation from outside.
Yeah, that is making me slave, emotional slave to someone. And I trade off my peace to get validation, gain respect, gain love. But if that is there within me, at least I'm not thirsty.
I'm actually reading this book called The Courage to Be Disliked. Just a couple of days back, I've reached a place where it's based on the philosophy of Alfred Adler, the psychologist, and it says that all problems are interpersonal relationship problems, interpersonal problems, and goes on to explain that if you were the only person in this world, then all your problems would end. Even loneliness wouldn't exist because loneliness also comes in context of other people.
True, true.
So it's very fascinating that we are talking about this, that the validation that we seek from outside, but if we are kind of not empty within ourselves, it's so much more easier to center, train yourself to bring that peace. So I want to ask you here, sometimes we confuse peace with silence or keeping quiet, stepping away from confrontations or difficult conversations. How do we distinguish between peace and avoidance in relationships?
Oh, yeah, it's a very, very crucial situation that we see all around us. What happens is that the natural way, if I can say, bring bit of a neuroscience here. So our brain has many functions, but the basic duty of the brain is to protect the existence of human body. And for that, it wants to protect us from threats. Threats can be real or perceived threats. And for brain, importance is this, that the absence of threat is beginning to look for reward. So it constantly, one radar is on, that is there a threat, real or perceived around me? Brain cannot distinguish. So So when I'm threatened of any kind, then I choose. My brain chooses. I don't choose. My brain chooses either fight, just take the situation head on, enter into the conflict, get into kill or die situation, and achieve peace. Second is escape from the situation and retain whatever peace we want to retain. And third is freeze, do nothing and pray for peace, pray for calmness. Again, it is externally oriented stuff. So, generally, like electrons take the path of least resistance, brain in that moment try and take the safest way. And sometimes, most of the people, safest way is to escape, which means they suppress and consider that by not speaking up, by suppressing, if I can retain whatever peace I have inside, because there's a fear of consequences, and I don't want to let whatever peace is left within go away. So, avoidance is a very natural phenomena, it's a part of survival mechanism, but I have seen people regretting that for a very long time. Then they keep on ruminating that I should not have remained silent at that moment. So, which means that if I choose not to speak up now to secure whatever piece of peace left within me, then I'll end up giving it up by ruminating within myself for months or years to. So, how do you deal with it? So, if I'm not able to speak up because I feel my peace is to be not traded at this moment, then I should have some safe source, say a friend or a family member or professional support, like a counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, or a coach. I should speak to someone so that whatever feelings are there which I have suppressed, I express it. So even if there is no change in the scenario, but I feel better and that I can retain peace. Because most of the people whom I have found regretting is only this, that I should have spoken up at that moment.
More like communication is the bridge that can really bring in the peace for two people. You often work with systemic coaching and family constellations. For those who are new to this concept, can you share how this approach helps us see relationships differently and maybe even find peace when we least expect?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Yash. Actually, the whole systemic work and concept of family constellation is designed around, or rather, it is discovered. We have not designed it, we have just discovered it. So, it is all around this that system will find its balance no matter what. For example, if someone's peace is compromised, then system will try and restore the balance by offering you the chances of regaining peace, and the person who disturbed it, system will not punish in that sense, but system will try and balance in them also, so that they don't end up disturbing peace of others. So system will try and balance, and system also works greatly towards providing the belongingness and respect to every member of the system. So if I am not respected, even and it is transgenerational as well. Say for example, if someone in my ancestors are not respected, or I have not respected, I say that, oh, because of my grandfather we are in this scenario, if he should have done like this, I would not have been, so which means I disrespected. Now, system will try and restore his respect by teaching me a lesson so that I don't do it for others. It's little abstract and may not be a time for us to explore more. Basically, system's objective is to restore peace, dignity, and respect for everyone in the process. Now, again, when you see the opposite objective or opposite examples, right, everywhere you find that in organization, respect is compromised, family belongingness is getting compromised, people fight with each other, whatever is going on, sooner or later, system will end up balancing it. Like I can give an example. Whatever we are doing to the Mother Earth, okay, so how nature restores the balance. Nature is a system. So it will try. If you punch, you will get a punch back. But many a times you don't know that it's a punch back from Mother Nature. So you find that suddenly there is an earthquake, there is a landslide, a lot of cloud bursts. So what is it? We are cutting trees in very high altitude Himalayan region. Nature is trying to balance it. So even it means that the human species might come under extinction threat because we've gone that far. So nature might balance it by simply eliminating humanity. It will balance. So it's also one of the Newton's law to remember. Although the systemic work is not Newtonian, it's more quantum. But Newton's law, every action will have equal and opposite reactions. So if I try and disturb somebody else's peace, my peace sooner or later will be compromised. Nature will balance by offering peace to that person and teaching me a lesson.
It's such a relevant example in today's time. When you talked about Earth, what came to me is there was campaigns going around and still do about Save Earth. Honestly, Earth will restore, like you said, it will find a way to restore itself. It is actually that we want to save our species or
That's
sometimes species around us, but Earth will find its own way. So it's a good way to kind of understand systems in a very short and simple yet very apt way.
yes, yeah, that's
Of course, you said that sometimes in families or even at work, peace can become very difficult to cultivate. Why do you think that is?
it is purely because people consider that my peace will be restored if I put other people down, even in the family. So that's where ego comes. So if I say that whatever I have said has to be agreed to, and if someone disagrees, then I feel that, so which means my peace is disturbed. My mental frame was that whatever I say has to be agreed to. Somebody disagreed, dissented. Then what happened? So I say that, okay, for my peace to restore, I have to knock other person down. I have to insult the other person. I have to scold the other person. In Cold War times, and we are perhaps in similar or even worse situation. There were nuclear race. All the countries were running for nuclear armament, and somebody says, "Oh my God, so many nuclear countries, nuclear powered countries. Now, I mean, the world will end." So I don't remember who said that, but they said no. If both the countries have nuclear weapons, they both are scared that if one uses, even another country also will be affected because nuclear radiation wouldn't know the border. So, nuclear race actually will try and align with peace. So, both are scared of each other. So, what they do? They sign no first use policy. They will retain nuclear weapons, but not use it. They will not be the first one to use. As Dr. Marshall Rosenberg also says in nonviolent communication, that sometimes you have to use force to get peace, but that is known as protective use of force.
Ujjwal, is there a moment in your constellation work where someone's perspective in a relationship has shifted and brought in more peace, might be for themselves or for their family?
Yeah, there are several situations like this, but if I can just talk about one. Okay, so we had a client who was always considering herself as a victim, that I have to take care of my elderly parents, and because of that, I didn't go my family way, I didn't get married, and see my brother and his family. They are all enjoying their life. Their family is complete, and I'm the one who's stuck. So we set up a constellation, and in constellation, you have a principle of time, principle of place, principle of exchange. So the way constellation was set up using different objects, and when she looked at it, and when we did whatever we did as a part of constellation work, she got an insight that the way the parents were facing her and the way their parents facing in that objectified manner, parents facing the son. I asked her that when you look at this, you have a lot of clarity of what you are giving to your parents. And here, now looking at this, what are you getting from your parents? And then there was silence, and you know, so I said, okay, so what your brother is not getting, as you're reflecting on this, what your brother and his family, his children are not getting. And she suddenly went silent and said that, you know what my brother and his family, children are not getting is the parental love and affection. That is a necessary part of my nephew's upbringing, my niece's upbringing. Your grandchildren tells you stories, they play games with you, and they also protect you from your parents. So my brother is also not getting that love. Probably what I am getting, although in oversupply, their love and affection, sometimes it is like choking me. This is what I am getting from them, and I think I'm undervaluing it. And then the whole conversation happened around that, and then she got an insight. What she was looking for was peace, because she was getting the feeling that she has sacrificed her life for the parents. What is she getting in return? When she found that, it's the love which is very, very rare. And she also talked about that there are so many friends of mine who lost one of the parents or both the parents, and they are regretting, oh, I should have spent some time with my parents. I should have, taken them around. Now they are every time in India, there is this annual ritual. We are in that period that people, do a lot for their ancestors. They are doing for their ancestrals, and they are still in the moment of regret. Whereas they are still there for me, so I'm getting a chance to serve them. And that reframing led to finding peace for her with it.
It's an important reframing we all need time to time in our own lives. What you talked about, like feeling like a victim, it is a very common thing in people. Like when things go wrong, we feel that, oh, it's happening to me. It always happens to me. I am the nice person. Everybody's out there to get me. That kind of a feeling is very common, but when you say that you can actually reframe it, what also comes to my mind is the practice of gratitude. Of course, a mentor, a coach, a therapist can help you look at these things in a non-judgmental safe space, but also if as individuals we are able to look at what do we have, it can be a very helpful exercise to reframe and see what you were talking about in this example.
Yeah, absolutely, Roshni. And this is what how exactly the brain functions. For brain to focus on what we have, it requires an effort. Brain automatically focuses on what we don't have because of the same thing. Primary function is to avoid threat and maximize reward. So, like for example, any negative news has more virality, but any positive news, people will ask for proof. So, it's a collective brain of the world functions like this. And hence, the awareness and acceptance is required, and to let go, forgiveness is required. So that what remains is self love, which was always there. But unfortunately, I'm getting a bit philosophical here. but now married for 25 years, being philosophical is perhaps one of the few avenues left for me. But it is around that our upbringing, our education system, our social system. We will never talk about that. We say, I love you. We don't say that I love myself. That was never taught. That to me is a bigger cause of many problems and challenges that we see around us. Challenges with self, challenges with interpersonal relationships, challenges with family, friends, employees, colleagues. Same root cause can be traced back to my deep need to love myself and others love me.
Um, our podcast, The Human Weave, I think the foundation of it is also to bring that, we often talk about self and other, and that is a constant thing we are doing. So when we talk of love, I think if you don't have it within you, you can't give it purely in that sense. The moment we divide it as me and them, that is where the disconnect happens. So if there is love, I think automatically there is love for yourself, and then it surrounds around. There is that interconnection that is very strong.
Yes.
I was reading one of the journal prompts where the prompt was, can you list 10 people whom you love? And the exercise was to list 10 people. And the next following prompt was, where is you there? How long does it get you to place yourself in the list? I think we're always conditioned to look outward rather than inward, like Roshni was mentioning. Ujjwal, when we speak about us and others, how do we notice our inner calm when it is missing in an interaction?
Yeah, so it will always show up via feelings because and body sensations. So feelings are manifested as brain processing or interpreting within. Because we need to remember that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. So, say for example, if I'm a vegetarian and I'm a flexible vegetarian, which means I don't eat non-veg, but somebody is eating, I have no problem. But for example, somebody is a staunch vegetarian, and if someone is sitting in front of them, shared table, and they brought some non-veg item. Now, I will see it as okay, I have no problem because I am seeing the world as I am. Somebody will be totally upset and they might end up raising an issue, and because their whole world within got shattered that how can you eat chicken, mutton, fish? So, all I'm trying to say, their peace will be disturbed the moment we see something which is not as per our view of the world, and that will manifest through body sensations and emotions.
So what I understand is we have to be aware that, uh, in the first place, be aware that it is our world that is getting disturbed. It's not everything and everybody around us.
So, yeah.
Self awareness is important, but in a relationship, a lot of times we are also in relationships where the other person is not aware, right? I'm curious if this is something that can be taught to someone we are in a relationship with, or is it something we can only cultivate in ourselves?
See, first is it's always we work on ourselves first, and then we work with the other person. See, there is a preposition difference. One is on and with. We work on ourselves, and what we end up making a mistake is we start working on others, which means other person has not really been made ready, or the person has accepted the role that please work on myself. So, which means we can work on us and other persons can work on themselves. We can only work with them. So, which means that, for example, in a very, very close relationship, say I'm working with my child and I don't like the way they take studies, they don't take seriously. And if I feel that, okay, they need to be more serious about it. So, what I do is I start go and instructing them, because one of the biggest disturbances in Personal relationships, professional I'm parking for now, is assumed authority over your family member or a friend or a relative. So we assume that authority that, okay, she's my daughter or he's my son. So I go and start instructing. Focus on work, complete your homework on time, go for playing, and mobile never ask. Till you complete studies, I'm going to confiscate your phone. When we are doing that, with all good intention, we want them to grow into a healthy, happy, and more successful citizen. But we started working on them when they are not ready. So, can we initiate a space of conversation there? And that conversation can be directly borrowed because sometimes we keep reinventing the wheel. We don't need to. We already have an amazing methodology available, which I would invite every parent, every professional to actually look at, even children also, is nonviolent communication, which is known as NVC. And there is a framework there called OFNR, stands for observations, feelings, needs, and requests. So it's one of the finest ways. There could be many, but this is one of the finest ways to engage into a conversation, starting with observation rather than, you don't study. It's a judgment. Instead, I see that as per your own calendar, this is a time to do mathematics. And I observe that you are playing games. And how is it making me feel is what I want to share with you. How is it making you feel? And why this feeling is arising within me? Because we need, or I need, or you need this. What is your need for checking your phone at this time or playing game at this time? And do you find it is healthy? So for that, in order for fulfilling my need, can I request you to do this? In order to fulfill your need, what are your expectations from? So it is an amazing methodology. But once it is practiced, then remember this, you are working with that person so that they work on themselves. Working directly on someone without their readiness or consent is a violence.
I just became a bit judgmental about myself as I was listening to this as a parent. But there are so many examples that we can pick as we are hearing what you just shared. There are so many examples we can pick from our own lives. And I think, from what I'm understanding, is to just start somewhere. Like it can feel like a big change, but to start noticing where that is happening. And I want to go back to what you were saying about the self awareness and then the acceptance. So just wanted to reiterate that for the listeners.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
In relationships, you were saying about nonviolent communication. You beautifully gave the example of child and the parent. But when it comes to the moments where you're hurt or frustrated, where you really don't have control of the situation, how nonviolent communication can help us stay in that moments of peace and be very centered, like we were mentioning earlier, both within ourselves and also with another person, where probably the person is the cause of hurt.
Yeah, sure, Yashaswini. Let us understand, like I mentioned before, when somebody wants to convey their anger, somebody wants to scold someone or pick a fight or even hit someone, they want to do that because there is so much of that they are holding. They feel that unless I supply that, I won't get peace. So I can give an example beautifully, and then for example shared by this amazing trauma specialist called Dr. Gabor Mate. Okay, he wrote this book, When Your Body Says No, and several others. He gave this beautiful analogy. He says that people keep telling that I'm triggered. So I'm angry because I'm triggered by someone who came late. I'm frustrated because I want to get promotion, but I'm not getting. So I'm always externalizing the trigger. Because of that cause effect, right? Because of that, this is happening. So Dr. Mate says that so understand the trigger. What is the trigger? It's a very small external device, say put up in gun, pistol, revolver, or even missiles. There's a small trigger. But what trigger does? Trigger is a mechanism which sets off the explosive within. It's a bullet or it's a missile, nuclear warhead. It is just setting off the explosive within. And the trigger is placed in such a way that anyone can come and press. But he said that trigger we all have. But if you really want to find peace within, then instead of stopping the people to trigger, because they are not triggering you, you are getting triggered. So what you really need to work on, that instead of trying to stop the triggers, work on diffusing your explosive within. So if you are diffusing your explosive, then anybody triggers, you will not get affected. Now, it may not be possible fully, but at least worth taking an effort. So what you mentioned earlier is that when people are looking for achieving peace in the difficult moments, first of all, labeling that this is a difficult moment and quickly calculating what is my gain or my loss, and then accordingly we behave. It's at that time bringing the focus on self, then observing your breath and what's happening instead of judgment, starting with observation. Again, OFNR process that we do with ourselves in that moment, it is great. But for example, initially slip ups will happen. We ended up saying what we thought should we don't want to say. Then even we keep judging ourselves that, oh, I should not have done this, I should not have done that. Oh my God, what sort of person I am? I consider myself as a coach. People think I have arrived, but look at me. I lost my mental emotional balance just because somebody cut my path on the road. So, what I'm doing, I'm losing my focus in the present moment. I'm trying to correct my past, which I cannot. So, that's where again awareness and then acceptance comes in. I should know, first of all, I should accept that I'm a work in progress. I haven't arrived. So if something like this has happened, and if I am like feeling triggered because of my own behavior, somebody else's behavior, I must realize that it's a past. And one of the Jewish psychologists, I'm forgetting his name, but quote is very, very important. He said that I think people will have to someday realize that they have to give up the hope of a better past.
That makes you shift immediately. You want to shift then when you hear that statement. Yeah.
And I can, so maybe if you're looking for, say, my how I deal with it, 9 out of 10 times I fail. But one times I am able to manage my centeredness. So I call myself, I tell myself that Ujjwal, first of all, in that moment, I am not my thoughts, I am not my feelings, I'm just an observer in this scenario. Although I am a participant, but internally I am an observer. So that is one within the moment, within that present moment. Afterwards, I find myself thinking about the future, feeling anxious, thinking about the past, and feeling regretful. I tell myself that Ujjwal, for all your previous moments in your life, you are already dead. And all your future moments, you are not yet born. And then I return to myself in the present.
When you say about the conflicts which we have with others, does it also strengthen the relationship
Isn't
in
it?
the moment?
Yeah, it does. Because even the other person is also looking for that do you still love me? And if you still love me, then you can't behave like this. But if I have behaved, then I should also have a courage to seek forgiveness. Because in our four words, third is forgiveness. So I should have that courage to seek forgiveness. And as our scripture says, Shama Virasya Bhushanam, which means the person who forgives is the most courageous.
It also brings to me the image that, when we are usually in a conflict, even one, if we are aware and we want to approach it in that moment from a centered space, a lot of times there is a fear sometimes of losing connection with this person in front of you. And then there are sometimes, this person has hurt you or said something that's really disturbing in that present moment. Like, even if you're able to center yourself later, how can NVC help us stay connected to both ourselves and with the other person in terms of conflict?
It's a very, very good question. One of the biggest learnings from NBC is that our feelings are the messengers of needs, or emotions are messengers of needs. So if I have an unfulfilled need, then it will show up as disturbing emotions, say anger, frustration, those kind of a thing. Which means that I am not settled from within because my needs have not been fulfilled or met as yet. The moment those needs are met, those emotions will go away. Or if I'm feeling already happy, satisfied, and fulfilled, which means some of my needs are met. So again, that awareness part will come in where I have to look within that what are my needs which are not met, giving rise to this anger. And if I convey that need, that I really feel anger within myself. However, you are an important person in my life, and I really don't want to disturb you. But can I share what my needs are? I want you to take care of me. But some of your behaviors are giving me the impression, and I may be wrong, that you don't care for me. Just wanted to validate. Is that right? And if the person says no, it'll be sorted right there. So what I'm trying to say that in that moment we argue. So either we fight or we keep mum. But there is no space for conversation. And Thomas Leonard was the founder of the ICF, International Coaching Federation, says this beautifully that all problems exist in the absence of a good conversation.
Talking about conversations and expressing how you're feeling, connecting with the emotion, what also comes as an important aspect of that conversation is the role of listening. Would love to talk a bit about that in creating relational peace.
So sometimes it looks like that is there something like listening existing? Because looks like nobody is listening. I'm not listening to myself, others are not listening to me, I'm not listening to others. So it's a listening pandemic that we are in. So it is crucially important. But looks like as humanity we have failed in the listening aspect. Because I'll share with you one example. One of the workshops that I was conducting many years ago, and it was on listening. So I said the next topic is listening. So one person got up and said, "Sir, do you think," they were in the mid management level, they said, "Do you think we need to learn listening? I think it's a waste of time. Because if we would not have listened, we would not have reached in this managerial cadre, right? We are listening. Why do we need to learn?" So I said, "Okay, I respect what you are saying. Let us check with everybody else." So I said, if you agree with this participant and whatever he is saying, if it makes sense, then I'm happy to save your 1.5 hours. Because if you all know how to listen, then I don't need to teach you. Probably you can take 10 minutes to teach me. But yeah, we can certainly move on. No problem. So they started discussing in the groups, and one person got up and said, which has still stayed with me. He said, "No, sir, we all have a notion that we are listening. But we really don't know, are we listening properly or not? When should we listen?" All of that. Because I said, "What makes you say that?" He said, "Because from our childhood, we are only taught to speak. We are never taught to listen." Our parents have taught only to speak. We are not taught how to listen. So we don't have any official training in listening. So we all have picked up listening the way we are. And most of us think we are listening, but I don't know. So it will be great if we learn today what is listening, even if it appears to be a waste of time. But my vote will be for at least let's see what's there. And then we kind of learned, and learning unfolded and everything. And they sort of at least came to a conclusion that what they think is listening is very different from what is listening.
When you give this example of, even our parents teach us how to speak, I was just thinking that even in that context, listening to anybody in the position of authority, parents or people we work with, but in a position of authority, listening becomes equivalent to just following instructions or obeying,
Yeah, absolutely.
which again is kind of an assumption. Okay, this is what they've said, I need to do this, this,
Yeah.
this. There is no counter questioning or asking for clarity. We're
Yes.
not pausing there somewhere.
Yeah.
We just continuing to action from that
Yeah.
listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. True. Yeah.
And even in this, like you were saying that it has always been there, but now with the social media and everything, one thing, I mean, we all are in the coaching practice also. One thing I feel when I go to social media is also the everybody is being asked to speak, say something. That is what the algorithm picks up. Then your post get noticed. Everybody's saying things, and I keep wondering, with this pressure that you have to keep posting every day, who is listening?
We are
Is the
listening.
algorithm listening to
Algorithms are
us?
listening. Yeah. The generative AI engines are listening. So yeah, it's, as I said, it's a listening pandemic. And I would like to invite everyone to look at this model by Otto Scharmer, who works with MIT Sloan School of Management, and he is the founder of this amazing methodology called Theory U. And in that, he says there are four levels of listening and then four levels of conversations. So our conversation is based on the listening, and it will be a great idea to look at that four levels of listening and then four levels of conversation.
Thanks for that recommendation.
I wanted to ask, have you experienced a moment where you've let go of the control and that actually created that greater space, maybe in the conversations or in the situations that you've dealt with?
Yeah, I think on the day that I got married, I let go of control. And when my daughter decides on something, I let go of control. I have to, but then I now have to. So it has become I let go of. I can share with you that we all have an illusion of control. Faster we realize we don't actually have to let go of control, because that's a notion that I'm controlling something. That notion itself is false. But still, even to let go of that notion of control is great enabler of peace, because a little bit of spirituality that I'm practicing, learning from that spirituality helps me that I believe that nobody is controlling anything, nobody is controlling anyone. Everything is preordained. The script is written somewhere. I am only supposed to act as per that script. So, whatever I call as my future, which is not known to me, is already defined somewhere. Why it is not known to me? Because I'm supposed to be, I'm destined to act. I am destined to do my karma. And then fruits are not in my hand. So, that is a great enabler, especially in the difficult moments. And it's a great ego shattering tool when we want to claim that the success is because of. When I let go of that, I believe that that's the biggest help that I can do to myself.
So when we are able to see ourselves, we do see that, youngsters these days are also having severe health issues. And till we reach that tipping point, we are constantly saying, no, I'm so important for this. I have to keep doing this. Otherwise, everything's going to halt. And then that moment when you collapse or somebody dies, something as extreme as that is when we realize that we were so quickly replaceable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, in coaching, how I overcame that. Okay, I need to know. I used to say that, okay, for my understanding, can I ask you this? I'm curious. Can you tell me this? Yeah. So I realized that I'm making it about myself. Yeah. But so how it was tough for me to overcome. So how I chanted this mantra that Ujjwal, what you think, what you are curious about, what you want to know is it does not matter. And then I went to that extent, you don't matter. What matters is client in their reflective spaces, which you are given a chance by the universe to create. Create also is not the right word. Co-create. You're partnering with the client. So you don't matter your analysis of the scenario, which client, which direction client should go into. All that thoughts will come, but it doesn't matter because you yourself don't matter in this process. It's a big ego shattering exercise, but that made clients get more out of coaching. And more I gave up, there was a peace. There's also another great gentleman, very simple, but very, very powerful gentleman called Mr. Nipun Mehta, NIPUNMEHTA. Servicespace.org is his website. You can look up for him. He lived his life by giving up and giving away. Giving up is not in that battle sense that I'm giving up, but he gave up and he gave away. And how his life became better is a case study. And there is another one, Dr. Michael Singer. He decided to surrender all his so-called willingness and surrender to the universe. And he wrote this book, The Surrender Experiment. And he talks about surrendering, what we are talking about as letting go. It is a great way of finding peace within, but it is also not very, very abstract. It is all practical, which can be done, but we just need a little bit of willingness to let. Because sometimes, if you secure this moment, you can salvage future damages.
But Ujjwalji, when we think about we don't exist or we don't have any control in our presence at all, does the cultural or social expectations where we live in, the society we live in, have any impact in creating that peace in relationships?
Yes, Yash, I completely understand what you are saying. When I say for peace, I don't want to withdraw myself. I want to continue to remain in the society, get engaged, but detached emotionally. In the sense, not also become indifferent. There's a difference. Say, for example, I feel what is indifferent is, say, somebody needs help. Say, a blind person needs help in crossing the road, and I become indifferent. I use my own learning to my benefit. I twist it. Universe has made him blind, not to my fault. My job is to walk past him because I'm in a hurry. Somebody waiting for me will get affected. So I am becoming indifferent and I have become disengaged. But how will I become engaged in the act but detached from inside? I said that, okay, so this person needs help. I need to engage into the act now, which is causing anxiety within me that I will get late, even by, say, a few minutes. So let me suspend that feeling because it's the feeling which is bothering me more rather than the act.
How can we create that calm in relationships that are in such complicated systems? Probably in work teams or the communities we are part of, or maybe the extended families. What can be helpful?
So I've created a short course called Calmness in Chaos, but I'm just sharing the essence of that with all of us here. It's simple that I'm more bothered about peace in relationships with others, but less bothered about peace in relationship with myself. My always invitation will be to first work on self, find peace within. So even if there is disturbance on the outside, you might get disturbed, but then you will not remain disturbed. It's like this. So say I'm walking on the road and say somebody has thrown a banana peel and I put my foot on that, I slipped, I fell down. That was not perhaps in my hand, but I remain there is a choice that I need to exercise. If I keep thinking, why did I fell and what this happened, and I keep remain there, how do I get up and move forward? But learn from it so that next time such scenario happens, I don't want to feel what I felt just now. What should I do? So working on self is the biggest domain that most of them miss. Somebody said very nicely, again, I'm forgetting, it was Carl Jung or someone, I don't remember, but they said that if you want to hide anything from the human being, just put it so close to them so that they don't see. We generally say that, right? Something is happening right under my nose and I don't. So that's exactly whosoever said that just put it under their nose. It is so close, but they are not going to look within. They are always looking around. So I'm saying that my peace, my work on my own peace and serenity within myself should be urgent and important work to be done. And when I do that, my urge for others, my urge for depending on others to get peace will be reduced, because this is a world which is a reflection of myself. If I'm unhappy, I'll find everybody unhappy. If I find myself happy and at peace, I will work towards reducing unhappiness and peace around me. I'll become a warrior for that. But for that, I need to have that first. And I would invite, for as a learning resource, I would invite everyone to read this latest book by Dr. Michael Singer, which is Living Untethered. In that, he talks about these concepts of stabilizing in the seat of self and what are the practical exercises you can use. There's also another uh, scripture called Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, is known as VBT. It's a part of Kashmiri Shaivism. In that, Shiva has recited 112 verses to Shakti to find permanent peace by doing practical exercises. So, like Shakti asked Shiva, how do we permanently reside in you and you reside in us? Where do you reside? So, Shiva says, you know where I reside? I reside in between, at the space between inhalation and exhalation. So, the pause between inhalation and exhalation, where you will find me. And for that, you need to be at peace. You're always looking around. So, how do you concentrate? How do you center on yourself? Those 112 verses are there. And they are practical tools to. There is this amazing book called The Ascent, published by Bihar School of Yoga, where you will find in English the Sanskrit words, then English translation, and then its interpretation.
Thank you for sharing that. I was also thinking when you were talking about this that it's again, even though we are talking about relationships, it starts with us. And the word leadership was something that was coming to me. We say that we lead our lives, but we don't understand that. We just take it as a verb, but to not understand lead is, actually showing leadership in your own life. And I think it's very relevant when it comes to getting yourself centered, bringing this peace within ourselves, and then kind of expecting it
Yeah,
outside of
that's
ourselves.
the way. Yeah, that's the way.
Can you talk about how also when we are able to do that, leadership can also show as an influence to others to do that to themselves?
Yeah, sure. I can cite one example. There is one amazing professor called George Colorizer. He teaches at IMD Business School, and he has coined a term called secure based leadership. He says that leaders who themselves are insecure will ensure that nobody around them remains secure. For them to feel secure, he has taught several tools, techniques, methods, models. It's worth looking at to learn that how I can feel secure and peaceful within me so that I'm assured. If I'm insecure, less assured, I will always be creating that environment around. So that is one. Another I would like to highlight is there is this amazing book called Turn the Ship Around by L. David Marquay. It's a real life story in which he talks about intent based leadership because everything starts with intent. If I want to create a secure base around me, or if I want to create a great leadership within me, it all starts with intent. So, first question is, do I have an intent?
Intent might look like a very big thing. It can start very small in every other conversations or expectations from others. What are some small gestures of kindness can help bring that harmony in relationships?
First of all, they teach doctors this, that, right? First, do no harm. So, if my intent is to correct someone, but I am not wanting to harm them, is what I need to verbalize. There is this amazing framework called radical candor, talks about dealing with a scenario where I am giving feedback, but I'm conveying that I'm personally caring for you, then giving direct feedback. Because direct feedback will really not work if the other person is not ready and they don't know my intent. So it's best that I convey why I am saying something. What is the purpose of it? Then half of the battle is won.
And it also reduces the misunderstanding and the miscommunication that can happen because of some assumptions or prejudices about what the other person thinks.
That is why, the whole concept of NVC and OFNR is so powerful. Actually, it's a conflict of frames. Say, my frame is that I really care for them, hence I'm giving this feedback for their better. But they don't know that is my frame. Their frame is, who are you to tell me this? You want to put me down, hence you are giving me this feedback. Their frame is this. So it's a collision of frames. Like I have heard somebody saying that whenever they want to give any critical feedback, they say that I'm going to share something with you which you may not like to hear, but it is perhaps in your best interest. Can I go ahead and share with you? Let the person say yes. Like I said before, my intent to work on someone will backfire almost every time. I need to work with someone so that they correct themselves, they work on themselves. We assume the authority in relationships.
Ujjwal, here I want to shift to something lighter. People who know you very well say that you are a man of humor, and I would like to know, how do humor and lightness contribute to joy and peace in relationships?
It does to a great extent because it diffuses the tension, and we generally don't practice it, but taking it lightly, because humor and lightness also tells that don't take many things seriously. People take the things personally, but with humor and lightness, you are also coming across as non-threatening person. Yeah, so appropriate usage of that will be highly recommended. Rather than laughing at each other, laugh with each other.
Yes. So curious to know here who in your life has taught you the most about peace.
I think there are several of them, but if I give a few, this thing first, I think you learn a lot from children, your own and others, because children are at peace. They are not in a rush. There's a great learning from them, and then they start getting spoiled up with cognitive development. But they were not born like that. So learning from infant, learning from animals is also great because they are at peace. Unless you disturb them, they will not harm you. Learning from Mother Nature, and then some spiritual masters. Say, for example, Ramana Maharshi says that any discovery that you need to ever do is, who am I? So, all the spiritual masters, why we say we go to the temple and why we feel at peace, any place of worship that we go to, because we know that they are radiating peace, or we are able to give away our worries and anxieties to that deity or to any person, any guru that we believe in. So they are not giving you peace. You are getting back to peace within yourself.
When you say children can help you stay with peace, and as they grow up, they drift away from having that peace internally. How can the current generation, the children and the young people that we have, we can guide them so that then they can build that peace in their relationships or friendships and retain them?
Yeah, I think it is a direct correlation with how much externally oriented I am. If I have made my peace conditional, that I'll be happy if I get so many likes. I'll be at peace if my dress, the photo that I've put on Instagram, is commented positively by others. This is known as if then mental model. So it is like this. Okay. So when I work with the couples who are undergoing some strained relationship, so so I ask them to describe it in this way. So we start with, I love him, but dot dot dot. I love her, but dot dot. I make them write 10 sentences. And then I say that, let the but remain in between. Transpose the sentences. Say, for example, previously it was written that I love him, but he's not taking care of me. And then we cut the but and put yet. So, like that, see, the rise of chatbots, rise of chat GPT, who all are there if you find most of the young people who are there, because they feel that at least interacting with machine is more peaceful than interacting with humans around, so they need to kind of balance there somewhere. Anything overdone is not going to bring peace, for sure.
So a lot of people say that ChatGPT is our new best friend. What I'm also understanding is as long as it's one of the best friends, it's okay.
Ultimately, chat GPT at best could be a good ally, but cannot become a primary thinker on your behalf. You don't think, and you are adopting, borrowing the thinking of artificial intelligence, is only going to make you become worse about yourself, because you are giving away your thinking capabilities. So let you remain a primary thinker, and let that be your, if not assistant, then at least be an ally. But you should be in the driving seat, and don't blindly believe anything and everything which is coming from there.
I was also thinking about that exercise you were talking about, the if then context. What it brought to me was then again, you're moving from being in the present and thinking, if this is there, then in the future, I'm going to have something else. I was just thinking the exercise of I love this person, but that exercise, does it also help when trust is broken in a relationship and you want to restore it or restore peace in that relationship?
Yeah, so depends on how many layers, how many people are in their relationship, and what is your intent. Because sometimes, say, there is a persecutor, and you don't want to remain in any contact with that person just to ensure your peace and serenity, then just let it go. Because sometimes every effort to rebuild or repair the relationship may not be required as well, because the times and context have changed. Say, for example, one of my friends who liked a girl and they couldn't marry, and he met that woman now in their fees. They met and they found they rekindled their liking for each other. But now this person has a wife, person has a family, and what he realized that I was falling after that girl, but now the context has changed, times have changed. So do I really need to drift myself towards her? Do I want to rock this boat that I'm on? And he regained his senses. That whatever I was feeling in my early 20s or late teens, the feelings and times have changed.
If you could leave our listeners with one simple tip for cultivating peace in their relationships, what would that?
Yeah, so my one tip will be that whenever you are feeling threatened, communicate using OFNR and validate, because the other person, in all probabilities, doesn't want to harm you, but they just want you to do better. So clarifying that, validating that before you conclude and disturb your peace. So you will find the difference between something which is temporary, something which is permanent. And most of it is only temporary. Only long term thing is your betterment and your fulfillment is what they are seeking. Maybe the way of communication is not proper. In summary, short word will be that validate before concluding and never encroach the space for conversation. Even in the darkest moments, do not close the opportunities for conversation.
Very heartfelt thank you, Ujjwal, for bringing so much wisdom, all that you have gathered with your experience, your stories, your lightness, and a whole lot of good recommendations of books and reading that we can go back to after listening to this. You have reminded us that peace in relationship isn't about just avoiding tension, but about showing up with presence, that centeredness, that compassion, and openness to truly see one another, and laced with some humor. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's really a pleasure to speak with both of you today.
Thank you from my side as well, Chilji. Today, for me, the conversation reminded that it is more important to have peace within our own selves, which has to be very deep so that it can beautifully shape the relationships that we can connect with others, like small gestures that could be a kind word or a moment of listening, a small ripple that can create a greater harmony for as well as for the other person. We also saw how conflict held with care and concern become greater bonds in our relationship. So while we carry this individual identity in our personal space, that can also bring the larger systems which influence us beyond our own internal system. Like you were mentioning, these might be very abstract ideas to bring in, but since it's a trainable element with practice, it can be consciously woven into our everyday moments. Thank you for that. As we close, we want to invite our listeners to reflect with some questions. When you think about your closest relationship, what does peace feel like in them? Second, and what one small act, pause, a kind word, or simple listening with more presence can you bring into your interactions this week?
Thank you for joining us on The Human Weave. May your days be filled with calm, courage, centeredness, and connections that bloom with peace. Stay connected, stay curious.